Damn, I'm great. Now, even when I considered using that phrase as a podcast title, it felt weird, right? Like, oh, is that a little too aggressive? Is that a little too assertive? And that is exactly why we're having this podcast episode because damn, I'm great should feel awesome coming out of our mouths. And as women, it's just not. It's not one of those things that we do easily or regularly, and we absolutely should. And so I'm going to use this week's episode. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my probably favorite books that I have read in a while. I read it probably 3 or 4 years ago. It's called How Women Rise. It is a great book. I'm going to link it in my show notes so that you can go and take a look at your local library or purchase it for yourself if you would like. But really, I wanted to explore this topic a little bit more because women, quite honestly, suck at giving themselves any sort of recognition, any sort of accolades. We don't talk about our achievements, right? We push them away, we push them to the side, or change that spotlight a little bit. And let's stop doing that, friends. Let's take ownership of how great we really are and the great things that we're doing as well. So, there's two main reasons why women are not good, not great at taking credit for their achievements. One is because they want to avoid that obnoxious perception. So you might know somebody who pats himself on the back all the time. Go ahead, you know that person. You've got their name or their face in your head. They are great. Just ask them and they will tell you all about all the great things they do, the great person that they are, all the great things that they've accomplished, right? And they're super annoying. And that's okay. They can be super annoying to you if that is how you feel about them. But then the other reason why women avoid and don't draw attention to the amazing things that they're doing is because they assume that others should notice the great things that they're doing. Right? And I have fallen into this category more times than I probably even recognize myself because it's easy to say, well, my great work is going to speak for itself. Friends, how much are you recognizing other people's great work? Do you see the incredible things they're doing? Maybe if you pause and you think about it for long enough, or maybe because somebody's brought a little speck of attention to you and then you are acknowledging some of the other work that has been done, but probably you're focused on yourself because that's how we as humans tend to be, and that's okay. Right? That's okay. But if we're not recognizing other humans' great work around us, especially women, then why would we think that other humans are recognizing the incredible work that we're doing? They won't. They shouldn't, right? And so we need to make sure that we are doing a better job of sharing the things that we're doing, right? And it could be super menial, right? I recently was charged with creating a capital project budget that more aligned with how we want to view our budget. It is not earth-shattering. Was it a new skill for me? Absolutely it was. Was it something that I was excited to do? Absolutely it was. And did I do an okay job? Yeah, I did an okay job. And I'll acknowledge that, right? But I also learned how to ask for help and guidance as well. And that was pretty great to be able to be humble enough and say, I don't know what I'm doing here. I've done my homework. I've looked up in the past. And also, I need some guidance, right? And so I'm really proud of that because that's going to help advance the work I'm doing that I get to do, and it allows for us to be a little bit more strategic in nature. So, talking about it, I don't talk about it at work. Why? Because, well, it's just a mundane whatever thing, but I'm really proud of the work that I've done. So, I am going to talk about that more and encourage you to think about what are even some like mundane things maybe that you've done recently, or maybe not recently, that you're proud of, that you want to make sure folks acknowledge you for and recognize that you've maybe learned a new skill set or learned how to do something a little bit different, or that is going to be a projection for you or your department or your company moving forward. Those are things that we should be recognizing ourselves for and for acknowledging and bringing up. So Roosevelt Thomas kind of is the founder of this thing called a referent group, right? And so what does that mean, Michelle? Well, that means that the definition is acting the way that the group they identify with expects them to act out. And we as women tend to do that, right? As women, we want other women to be humble. Well, most of the time. We want women to be humble. We want them to do good work, and, kind of be quiet about it. Meh. Um, Nah. I'm kind of over that, right? Like, we're gonna do great work and we're gonna be vocal about it. And we're gonna continue to identify as women who can do great things and who do great things. And so we're gonna start moving away from that referent group as is currently identified, because we want to, break the glass ceiling. And I know that just like rolls off the tongue a little bit too easily, but more than that, we want to be acknowledged for the great things that we're doing. We're in the middle of March Madness, and again, the women's tournament is a little bit more exciting, a lot more, let's be very honest, a lot more exciting than the men's tournament. Now, for those of you who are like, sports ball, what is that even? Right? It is one of my favorite times of the year when sports gets to take a spotlight on incredible athletes. And for the second year in a row, and probably longer than that if I'm being honest, but I haven't paid attention as closely as I would have liked to, the women have outshined the men. The tournament's more exciting. Unfortunately, there's injuries happening, which are just devastating for the athletes. But also, like, the games are awesome. The games are incredible to watch. The stories are awesome to listen to. The athletes and continue to show up the way that we have expected women athletes to show up, and to produce like some really awesome games. So, I use that as an example of like, we're going to continue to break the mold, friends, and we're going to shine and we're going to be awesome. So, so that referent group, let's try and flip the script on that one, right? Like, anybody else with me? Maybe I just got on my soapbox. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with getting on a soapbox, friends. It's what this podcast is all about. So, in the book, How Women Rise, again, I will link it in my show notes. Love this book. I refer to this book a lot. A lot when I talk to other women, when I talk to men about why I'm doing things or doing things the way I'm doing things. Um, I reference this book a lot, and it's a business book, so you can kind of shape it however or translate it however you need to. But in one of the chapters, it talks specifically about like owning our what's the word I'm looking for? Owning our things that we're doing. I can't think of the right word. We'll find it. But owning all of the great work that we're doing, and that in one of the stories that is shared in there, it talks about how women have this habit of turning the spotlight on others. And what it doesn't say, but what should include, is not only is it turning the spotlight on others, but it's turning the spotlight away from ourselves. Now, I want to encourage you to think about when you've worn like I don't know, a dress with pockets. Every woman has this story. Maybe not, but a lot of women probably have the story, and if you don't have the story, you know what I'm talking about. If you're wearing a dress with pockets and the dress is bomb, is that a cool term these days, friends? I don't know. We're in cool term language in my house. But if the dress is incredible and somebody gives you a compliment about it, hey, love your dress. Thanks. It has pockets. Tends to be our automatic response. Chuckle now, friends, because you know you've done it. And maybe it's not pockets, but it's like, thanks, I got it on deep discount, or it had a great sale, right? Like we say thanks and we divert the attention to something else. We divert it away from the compliment that we were just given. Hey, great dress, that looks good on you. Thanks, it has pockets. Is my go-to example of how we do that. Or maybe we were the leader of some sort of a project that we were working on, right? Thanks. I couldn't have done it without everyone's help, or I couldn't have done it without the help of my colleagues, right? If you're the lead of the project, girl, take ownership for that. You're coordinating that stuff. Take the praise, take the ownership for it. Thanks. That was a super fun project. I appreciate the acknowledgement, right? It's hard. It's hard, friends. It's really hard to do. But own that because it's so incredibly powerful and important that you're getting recognized and acknowledged, and you need to be able to own that praise, that pride, that gratitude, that acknowledgement. Own that stuff. They go on to say in the same chapter that if you don't value your work enough to speak up about it, then why should or would others? I'm going to say that again. If you don't value your own work enough to speak up about it, why should or would others? Girl, you're doing some great work, my friends. You're doing some incredible work, and the value of your time, your intellectual property, your wisdom, your work, all the things that you're doing, you need to own that, my friends. You need to speak it into existence. Is one of my favorite phrases to use. You need to speak that gratitude, that grace into existence, and make sure that other folks know, hey, I spent a lot of time on this. I want you to know I'm really proud of the work and the outcome of this project. That's great. That's great. That's all you have to say, and that is not boastful, that's not egotistical, that's not being an obnoxious person about the work that you've done and spent time on. And so make sure that you are sharing the great work that you're doing, because again, if you value it, you need to make sure other folks know that and hear that and understand the value of your time, energy, work, intellectual property, and the pride that you take in that. So I have only just a couple tips. Only just a couple. Like truthfully, that sounded a little bit sarcastic, but it was not. It was not. I'm gonna throw it back to episode 83, where the title is Thank You, Smile, Shut Up. If you haven't listened to that episode, probably one of my favorites, go and listen to that. And it is based off of the book by Shonda Rhimes, Year of Yes, where she talks about thank you, smile, and shut up when being given a compliment. And so I encourage you to do that. And if you need tips, then go listen to that episode. It's a quick episode, as most of mine are, and learn how to say thank you and smile, and don't add anything else to the end of that thank you when you're getting a compliment or getting that praise. It's really important to do that. It takes a minute to figure out how to do that, but it's really powerful when you learn to just say thank you when someone is giving you a compliment. And then the second and last tip that I have for you comes from this book, How Women Rise, and it's I call it Points of Pride. And so essentially, I started, after I first read this book, I started doing in my regular meetings with my supervisor, who's a different supervisor than I have now, but I started doing what's called points of pride, because women do not speak the things they're proud of into the universe. And so I wanted to start doing that. It was with a male colleague, or a male supervisor, I mean. Colleague, still a colleague, but it was important to me that I started vocalizing what I was proud of and the things that I had done and worked hard at. And so I started creating that as part of my weekly or bi-monthly meeting that I was having, we call them one-on-ones, but the check-ins or whatever you call them in your industry, make sure that you're including that and tell them why you're doing that. It's okay because it's going to feel like weird if you're just like, oh, and I'm going to add these points of pride to my agenda. I mean, that you can do it if you want to, but also you could say, hey, I heard this great podcast episode. I read this great book, How Women Rise. And they tell us that we should be talking more about the things we're proud of. And so it doesn't have to be a bunch of them. It could be one or two. It could be five. Who knows how many it is? Maybe it varies from meeting to meeting. But do that. Add points of pride to the meetings that you're in, your one-on-ones. So your supervisor knows what you're proud of. So your supervisor understands that the things that you're working on and that you want them to acknowledge as part of the work and the hustle that you're doing as part of your job. I also would encourage you, if you are in spaces of all women or only women and women identifying folks, to add this space, points of pride. How can you encourage women to speak it aloud in a safe space, right? That's the hardest part, is you've got to find the space that feels safe for you to be able to do that. And so maybe you start a meeting that way. Maybe you end a meeting that way. But creating that space for women to be able to advocate for the cool things that they're working on, for the things they're really proud of. And it could be a work-related thing. It could be a personal thing, because we don't advocate and use our voice enough for our personal accomplishments either. So I encourage you to help create that space. And if you're in a space where that is already something, maybe it's not called points of pride, but maybe it is already something that exists, use that time for some self-fulfilling stuff, right? Share your stuff, make an ask, be proud of the things that you are doing and accomplishing. So those are my 2 tips. Thank you, Smile, Shut Up, and add points of pride to your regular meetings with other humans in your world and in your workspace. So friends, thank you so much for showing up, for continuing to be part of this community who advocates and empowers. Thank you for continuing to share this out with others. More guests are reaching out, and I love it, because there are so many important things that we have to say and that we want to share with one another. And so I send you off this week with these affirmations. I'm done apologizing for spending time focused on me. I'm done apologizing for sharing all the great things that I'm working on, that I'm doing, and who I am, because damn, I'm great. Friends, go out there, have an incredible week, do the amazing things that I know you're capable of. Remember to like, follow, and share wherever you're listening to this podcast, and make sure you subscribe if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you know all when the newest and greatest things are being shared out there. And make sure that if you love this podcast, please give 5 stars. I would love for you to have some additional or for me to have some additional feedback on this episode and on this podcast. Social media, friends, I'm everywhere. Hit me up. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, YouTube, TikTok. Find me out there anywhere. I've got lots of different posts on my social media platforms so that you can get connected and stay connected from week to week as you engage in this podcast and in this community. And if you want to be my guest, like all my incredible, amazing past guests and guests to come, make sure you fill out the form. The link is in my show notes or on any of my social media platforms. I would love to hear all the incredible, amazing, wonderful things that you have to share. And remember, you're fabulous. You're a badass. You've got this, and I'm here for you.